Welcome, everybody. This is the first episode of Interviews with Drew. I'm your host, Drew. To the Thank you, Ty. To the left of me, I got the one and only Donavon. Thank you for coming, bro. I appreciate it.
Nah, thank you for having me, man.
I know you got a little bit of a cold, but I appreciate you making the commute.
No, this isn't like the R&B sexy nigga voice. This is like a real, genuine flu.
But the album is, and we're going to get into it a little bit later. We're going to get into that a little bit. But I didn't know that you live in Mount Vernon, man.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So you went from Brooklyn. You grew up there, born there?
Yeah. But I was just telling you before we started rolling, like when Jamaican or just Caribbean niggas get money, we just keep moving more and more upstate. So,
Gotcha.
you know, like my parents started doing like a little bit better for themselves, and then you got to move out of the hood.
Yes.
But we really just moved to another hood because Mount Vernon is just as bad as Brooklyn. It's just more trees and shit.
I've been having this conversation with a lot of people from New York, and you know, it's just the 5 boroughs, of course. Everybody knows the boroughs. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, Mount Vernon and Yonkers, those are like the two more popular sections of New York that people know about. And there's a lot of people. We talked about Nico, shout out to Nico.
Niggas, fucking Diddy from Mount Vernon.
Diddy,
but like,
yes.
It's like me, or it's like niggas from Mount Vernon don't like repping it like that. Because like I identify as being from Brooklyn. That's where I feel like I got a lot of my shit from, because I grew up really religious and going to church a lot, and my parents' church was in Brooklyn, and I played ball in Brooklyn, so I was always hanging out in Brooklyn, and it was always about getting out of Mount Vernon, you know, taking that 2 train every second, because I just hated being there, because it was just as boring, and then it was boring, and then it was just as dangerous. So it's like, well, I'm gonna be somewhere that's boring and dangerous when I could be somewhere that's lit and dangerous.
A little bit more fun.
Yeah.
Were your parents instrumental with you doing music? Like, how was your upbringing with them? Did they always play music around? Because you just said that they went to church a lot. Was a lot of gospel music at home, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Gospel music entirely, where it's like I have no formal music education. It's just all church. And I think the thing about church that gave me a good intuition early is that you never really learn the rules. You just learn how to bring a feeling out of people. So it's not like this chord is an A minor and this chord is an A minor 7. It's like when I play this chord like this, people go crazy, and when I play this chord like that, it doesn't really matter. So it was all about that. And I think the thing about gospel music that's kind of undeniable is, like, whether it be the way that like musicians play or singers sing, they're singing convinced that they're doing it for something bigger than themselves. So it makes the music just like more emotionally potent, because it's not like, oh, I'm singing about myself. It's like I'm overwhelmed singing about this thing that's bigger than me. Gotcha. So yeah, gospel music was just generally kind of like my music school or something.
So when was the first time you ever picked up an instrument or played? Was that church?
Yeah, this is lame as fuck, but it was in my church's marching band. That's got to be the most corny thing anyone could say, but it's true.
You gotta start somewhere.
And then I got really into guitar, and then I started playing drums in church, which was OD fun. And then the thing with church musicians is that, like, whenever one is out, they'll be like, yo, hop on the keys right now. So you get like a really general understanding of how to play everything a little bit.
That's good.
So that's kind of how I learned how to play like decent at everything a little bit. But drums and guitar is definitely the thing I pride myself in. And I was never in the choir or anything. I was never a singer at all. I've only been singing for like a year, because it was always just, playing and producing. Singing is like the last thing that came.
Yeah. Well, at least you developed those skills first. So what came first? It was guitar first?
I say drums, guitar,
first,
keys, and then producing, and then singing. Oh, rapping. I was just like a straight up rapper for a while. And then, but singing is like, it's the last thing in the chain, which is weird, because people now they perceive me as a singer. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, if you make an R&B album, then there's definitely singing involved in that. Even if it's just one note for the whole song, you're still singing. So you never listened to any hip hop at home?
Oh no, hip hop is a huge part of it. I started off as like a bar you to death rapper, and I had a deal and everything. I got signed to E1 when I was 17, because I was just like, I was really good at making beats and I was really good at rapping. And yeah, I had a completely other name, which I won't say out loud, so niggas don't search it.
Everybody had that. Everybody had like a name. Yo, I'm gonna kill him with this.
Yeah, 100%.
10 years later, you're like,
right. I wasn't bad. I just didn't have. I was really on my like lyrical, miracle, metaphysical individual. Like I was really on that tip.
Okay.
And I wasn't bad. It's definitely how I got the cadence in my music. It's weird. Some people perceive me as a rapper, and some people perceive me as a singer, but. I think it's the intersection that's really interesting right now. People who have like a really strong foundation in like writing bars, and then people who have a really good ear for melody. I feel like that's the sound people have been interested in this decade.
Definitely.
And but I wouldn't be able to do any of this if I didn't have that like solid rap foundation. And I had a lot of like OGs really early that like schooled me on everything. And as a kid, I just got really obsessed with learning everything about hip hop. And then later on, you know, everything about funk music and everything about jazz. But like my want to be like a savant in music definitely started in like hip hop and like listening to hip hop podcasts, listening to like just trying to interviews, trying to learn everything I could about it.
Okay. So you was really in depth with the hip hop and everything. Who was your favorite artist growing up, you would say?
I mean, it's really basic, but Ye, right? Because Ye is the first person that... He was the first artist that I heard, and I guess the entire time as a kid, I viewed rappers as like wrestlers, where it's like, oh, you're like a character, you know, like this is a... I was listening to music, and I mean, I guess I was kind of right, but like I was listening to music, and I felt like you're not a real person. This is a show. And then I remember like, I don't know, my brother had Late Registration, College Dropout, John Legend's first album, which Ye co-produced, and then Ready to Die, and a bunch of other, and Stevie Wonder's a definite collection. And like those albums are really important to me. But with Ye, I could just tell very early that, one, you're a real person. Like he broke the fourth wall with shit like Last Call, and I was like, all right, music is a different thing now. It's not just a performance. It can be real life too, and these can be real people. And then it was just the fact that I could tell he was an arranger, because I knew that's what I wanted to do. Like I knew that all these people are just like writing and recording their voice, and like I couldn't explain it at the time, but like Kanye is really sitting here and arranging vocal parts and arranging percussion sections and viewing his shit like a play, where it's like, you know, don't get a Cam verse because Cam is high. Get a Cam verse because the texture of his voice over this beat would sound crazy, and really continuing that like Quincy Jones progression. Definitely. It's also, I feel like a lot of people have picked that up in different decades. I feel like it was Quincy for a while, and then Diddy was kind of the Quincy of the 90s as far as like psychologically understanding production, and then it was Ye for most of my life. And now I guess that shit sits with people like Travis or like the new generation of artists coming up now. But there's always that person that is like the producer of the decade. That
you could even say it was Dr. Dre too.
Sorry, I can't believe I skipped Dre.
No, you good.
But that's some New York shit, you know. And I that's a really good thing to call out, because we are very biased geographically. Dre entirely. And the thing about producers is, the history books don't really give a fuck about producers until you're relevant for 3 decades straight. And that's what like Dre, Pharrell, Ye, Quincy. It's a short list. And that's how you can tell that you're not in love with a sound. You're like in love with someone's decision making. So as a kid, it was Ye, and I was just like, from the art direction to the music videos to I love this man's decision making, and I want to do what he does. So yeah, there's a lot.
I like that analogy they use about wrestling, because and you said it's a play, because that's how I describe wrestling to other people. I'm like, it's like a play. They're out there to perform and do it to their best ability. So when Rob and I were out there yesterday at MSG, the best matches were the ones where they obviously talk in the ring and stuff like that, but they go over it in the back, and then they go out to perform, and then whoever does the best performance, that's who wins, and that's who the crowd likes the most, and that's who appeals to everybody. So I really like that analogy they use with Ye.
And don't get it fucked up. Like, rappers are still out here being wrestlers. There's no need to name any names, but like a lot of people wake up and are like, how can I sell this image today? And they're not really being themselves, which is cool, because we always need that. We need characters and superheroes and supervillains. But I've always just felt like that's too much work. Like I can never not be myself, just because I really respect people who actually aren't being themselves, because I'm like, that's so much work.
I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Because usually it's the opposite, and especially with social media,
Yeah.
now everybody wants to be that guy that everybody follows, and it's not really them, and everything
Yeah.
like that. So it does put up an image. Have you ever encountered somebody where you thought that they were like that, but then you met them and it's like,
Yeah, it's most people, and I think you learn as you get older not to get mad at the people as much as the structure.
yes,
Because when you learn how the industry works, it's like it's really hard to mentally navigate, like staying yourself. You know, like you can get signed to a major and they'll be like, no, like you can't be in this relationship. You got to be in this relationship
Yeah.
because it's better for your brand. And what you kind of learn with the more successful people you meet is that like brands kind of become prisons, and you see a lot of people that are trapped in their brand. And something I try to remind myself and other new artists is like, you got to make that box as big as possible before they close you in, because they're going to close you in. They have to close you in to sell you. They got to close you in to ship you off.
yeah, like this is you, and then this is what
But
you're gonna do.
you got to
exactly.
fight for that shit early.
100%.
And you got to be your full self very early, or else they will take that from you.
That's why I was speaking to a friend of mine like a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, I like this and this and this. I was like, oh, do you watch Formula One racing? Because I grew up watching it because my dad watched it and everything. And then like lately I've been watching it a little bit more, they had a documentary special on Netflix and stuff. And he's like, do you like everything? And I was like, kind of, yeah. I'm like a little bit interested in everything. So I don't want to just be like, oh, it's just hip hop. It's like, no, I like wrestling too. I like F1. I like this. I like that. So I don't want to be boxed into just one thing, because then you narrow yourself. You can't, because a lot of times with celebrities, when they venture out to something, then fans are like, oh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, come back. That ain't you.
Yeah.
Like, come back here. So it's definitely great.
It's something you gotta play with. And the thing about Ye, which is why I said he's my favorite producer, is as a kid I fell in love with his decision making. So I remember feeling a little weird when like 808s came out and the sound switched, but I was like, this is still my favorite artist. You know, I still hear his mind. And sound switches, and good music comes from a need, and what is needed right now won't be what's needed in 10 years. So if you want to last, you can't be attached to a sound. You gotta be attached to your taste, because all you have is your taste and how much you believe in it if you want to last. And I guess my first EP worked now, and I'm very proud of it. And I want it to be timeless, and you invest in it being timeless. But I feel like that's what was needed last year, and now I'm working on, I feel like, what's going to be needed in 2020. And I'm thinking about that. I'm trying to stay at least like 3 to 4 steps ahead. But like you said, you know, like you can't let anybody box you in, because none of us are naturally like brands. Like none of us can naturally be like sealed up and explained in an elevator pitch, which is what you got to do at labels and shit. Like we're niggas like fucking Naruto and NASCAR and shit.
True.
And then they will also shoot you. Like I don't like it's and the more you meet people, the more you realize that. And it's really fun to be yourself, because
people are becoming more 3-dimensional. Like now people are like, oh, it's accepted to watch anime and accepted to do, even though I don't understand it at all. Like I appreciate it when somebody like Megan Thee Stallion comes out and says, I love it, but at the same time I'm over here twerking on stage and bringing fans up. So it's just her being her real self and authentic.
There's people that come along that I note as permission artists. So whether their music is timeless or not, they gave you permission. And there's very few of those, and it's not always who history remembers, because like, and I think, you know, Megan and all these people are people that are incredible artists that history will remember. But for me, I just remember like OF or some shit, and like Frank, and just being like, as a black man, I can be a different kind of person, and you just gave me permission, right? Like Donald Glover putting out screenplays, that gave me permission, like, you know. And it sucks, but we need permission, because like society takes away our confidence as kids. So good artists come along and give that shit back to you. They sell that shit back to you. And that's the goal, you know. That's what Megan is, you know. Like black women are so fucking oppressed that there needs to be a Megan to show that
to just get
you
out
can
there.
twerk and be good in school. And like,
Yep.
sadly, that's necessary, but it is, and that's important as fuck.
Yeah, you could drive the boat and still,
Exactly.
still go to class in the morning and everything and get this shit done.
Society sucks so much for black women that there needs to be a Megan to prove that. But that's why whenever I see somebody doing that, whether I like the music or not, I don't hate on that shit, because you are literally, you're doing the work politicians should do, of like, I'm physically making it feel better to go 100%. Outside as a woman, which is really important.
And you could definitely tell when it's authentic, when it's real. You could tell like when somebody's just having fun, having a blast, just being them. Like the baby, like him knocking somebody out, like that's him. Like he's just rapping out at the same time, and he has more eyes on him, more attention on him.
And the thing about even like the baby's a good contrast to Megan, because the thing that is really cool with those hood dudes, which is something I feel like 50 kind of broke isn't open, is like all those niggas are funny as fuck. Like the niggas that will shoot you and kill you will have you dying laughing, and that's why like 50, the baby, I could think of mad more people, but like it's important that they exist, because now those hood dudes feel like they can be themselves too, because the baby's making jokes on Instagram, so I don't have to be gooned out. Like,
exactly.
It's important for those artists. Everybody's
just being themselves now. But I wanted to go back to when I first found out about your EP. So I was kind of disappointed a little bit with Chris Brown's album this year. This one, it was again like 30 some songs. I liked the one previous. It was like 45, but I liked it better than this one. And I was like, all right, let me go search for new music, because I've been writing articles and things like that as well. And then I just stumbled upon yours, and I stumbled upon another artist named Marco McInnes. And those were the two albums that I listened to. And then I was just blown away by both of you guys.
Thank you, man.
And then I wrote both of them at the same time, and you guys both hit me back too at the same time, same day. Dope. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, okay, so something I'm doing it is working.
Well, it's the way you got to give yourself credit, man. Like I guess artists like me, and then there's a lot of other artists like me, we kind of feel like we make puzzles, and then we're like, well, no one's gonna fully get this shit. And then when you put it out and you read something and someone fully gets the shit, it's like, all right, I gotta meet this. Like, you fully got all of the shit that I put into this thing, and I
appreciate it.
It's very rare, and I think artists that are kind of self-aware just understand that, like, I'm mostly doing this for me, and if anyone else gets it, then that'd be beautiful. But most people don't, you know. Most people just like hear bad and they're like, this is a bop, or they'll see the video and be like, this is colorful, but they won't get the long story I'm telling. So when someone gets it, it's like, yeah, I fuck with that.
I appreciate it. It does happen with certain artists though. So like an artist like yourself who does put so much into the music, then I'm like, all right, I have to sit back and listen. That's what I'm gonna do with Rhapsody. With all the bars that she's giving, I'm like, all right, I need to take like 3 weeks, a month, I need to take some time with this, because it's not like something that I could just listen to and then just be, all right, you know, it's just it's a good song for now.
And that's what we're being robbed of right now, because shit moves so fast. So I appreciate that you take that time.
That was the other thing too. A lot of albums, they just come and go, and then it doesn't stay and it doesn't last. But I've been listening to you since I first heard it. I've been listening, and I've been just going back and back and back, and just because I just love the music so much, and it's great. So this is your first full project that you put out, right?
Yeah.
How long did the process take entirely?
Oh man, like, I guess you could arguably say your whole life, right? But recorded bad maybe like a year and a half before I put it out, and then that was like the inception of like, this is the sound, and this is how I feel right now, and this is what I'm going through. And then These Days came shortly after, and then I was like, all right, I kind of have like a story here, and then everything else came that just kind of like filled it in. And it's weird. I feel like you kind of reach a point with making things sometimes where it feels like there's almost a path laid out for you, and you just have to uncover it. And there was a lot of connections in the project that I'd be lying to you if I said that I sat there and came up with everything. It's really just felt like I was like unearthing something that was already there. And I tried to convey that as much in the videos too as possible, as far as like what I was trying to say in them, because it just I I guess when you're writing from a place that's like very raw and you're just saying how you feel, a lot of times like the music will tell me things and give me advice before I'm ready to admit it to myself. Because there's like I'm much more comfortable being like honest on a song than I am like looking in the mirror and being like, you gotta change this. So, and then when it's all done, you just listen to it and it's like, wow, it's just like screaming to myself these things the whole time. But
so music is really your release.
Yeah, it's too many things to me. It's like, it's what I do for work, it's what I do for fun, it's everything. And I think you really leave yourself very vulnerable when it's everything, because you know, if some people shit on it, then it's like, I can't lie and say that's not me. Like, I can't lie and say the label made me do this. That nah, it is all me, every single decision. But I think luckily you kind of grow up and you learn to like detach a bit, and that you're not for everybody, you know. And as long as there are people like you that get everything, that's all that's ever gonna really matter, you know.
Got you. So you said that this is your first time singing as well. This project, that was the first time you ever tried to sing out to an audience, basically?
Yeah.
Really? And so for the whole year, it was just you and your band, right, as well?
The band, they don't, except for the keyboard player who helped me out with touching a lot. But I play and record everything and like mix everything with some help on the mastering side. But for Bad Mind, at least, everything was me as far as like the music and the production and the writing. But now I'm trying to branch out and work with a couple different people. But yeah, it kind of had to be like that, because I was just like in a zone, and I really couldn't think about anything else until it was over. But yeah, it's cool that people feel the amount of hours you put into something in their replay value. You know, if you put a lot of, it's something I learned from Quincy, where, you know, he would like introduce an instrument and always give it like a nice little tie off, and like every single piece of the arrangement would have like its story arc. And I just like was really studying like what gives something replay value.
Yeah.
And with Bad Mind, it was really about entertaining myself, where it's like, I'm 23 now, I was 22 at the time, and my attention span is shit. So how am I going to make an album to entertain myself? It's got to be 11 minutes, and it's got to be really good and really fast, and there's got to be shit zooming in and out of the mix. And yeah, it was really like a big question of like, it got to have like some element of humor. Like it has to entertain me.
Yes.
And that's when I love when I see artists just trying to entertain themselves, because at least with my friends who are artists, I'm like, man, you're a genius and you're really cynical. So if you can entertain yourself, the people are going to love it. So I think it's really important to like have a sense of self, and then understand that you got to entertain yourself for it to stay exciting. Yeah.
Gotcha. No, I understand that. I definitely get it, because even with mixes that I do, like R&B mixes, I'm working on one right now, Caribbean and Afrobeat mixes. Like when I'm in the zone and I feel it, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna feel it, because it's. And also when you see DJ on stage, and then his energy is high or her energy is high, then you get the same feeling. Then it reciprocates back to the crowd.
And what you learn from like mixing and production is that all the shit that makes you good is just the shit that no one else has the time to sit there and do. Where it's like, no one else has the time to like mix the snare for 5 hours, or like mix the snare for 5 months. So like, I'm gonna make sure that like this snare is like perfect, because and it might, and you know, all of those decisions individually don't influence the way the listener feels, but when 10,000 of those decisions add up, they feel like and it's all unconscious. It all exists in a listener's unconscious. Listeners aren't even thinking about like, this snare is cutting too high in the mix, but they can feel like, there's something off about that, and I don't like this artist because there was something off about the mix. So it's really important to know that like everything we do as like producers and engineers, we're doing for like the human unconscious, and like we gotta know what we're doing. We gotta know that like that snare is too loud, or like these vocals are really harsh, because you know, some girl in the gym listening to you, they don't know what a snare is, but they know like, oh, I really like this.
Yeah.
So you gotta, And a lot of the work as an engineer, because I spent a lot of time just engineering, you don't get rewarded for it. So you kind of got to be your own reward system and be like, damn, I mix the shit out of them vocals. That shit sounds great.
Because we talked about producers earlier, like they're just starting to now really get their due, and you could give props to, like you said, Kanye. They're just starting to get their due. You have a Young Metro. You have I'm forgetting a lot of names. Take Heath. You have Take Heath. So you have a lot of producers out here who are just starting to get their credit. But like you said, even just the little intricacies that you find in the song and in the music. Because what happens a lot is I'll listen to something, I'm like, oh, that's dope, that's dope, that's dope. And then I'll listen to it for like the 100th time, and I'm like, yo, I didn't even hear that the first time. Yeah, and it happens with lyrics as well. I didn't hear that the first time. So what makes you go and say that this is finished, this is perfect, this is maybe not perfect, because nothing is perfect?
It's just
really?
Luckily, you gotta have, if you're gonna be, I guess every good producer engineer has like OCD to a certain extent, which I definitely have. So you actually need a support system. You need people to be like, you've been mixing this for 11 weeks. I don't hear the difference. You're wasting time. You're ruining your shit.
Get on to the next song.
Because what's weird is I almost, looking up to Ye, he kind of gave me that toxic mentality where it's like, there's this video of Ye during the making of Graduation, right? And like Stronger is already the #1 song in the country, but he's in the club in Paris and he's like, I don't like the way the kick is hitting. So he paid 11 different mixing engineers after it's already the #1 song in the country to keep mixing the kick. And he's like going to Timbaland, and like Timbaland's like, I tried every kick, like I played you every kick I've ever had. I have every drum kit that's ever existed, like which one do you want? And you realize at that point, like, you know, the song can't get bigger, right? Like people are having fun to the song in the club, but like you as a creative feel like that kick isn't sitting right. And all my idols are like that in the way, like Ye is like that, D'Angelo's like that, Lauren is like that. And that shit is really hard in this day and age because we don't have that time, right? Like D'Angelo had 4 years in between Brown Sugar and Voodoo, and then 15 years between Voodoo and Black Messiah. Ye had 3.5 years between like working on College Dropout. I'm trying to put my next shit out in January, so it's like I gotta make decisions faster, and I gotta live with those things I might have to leave on the table faster. But it's really hard to navigate in the internet age, but I do like that I have that mentality because, you know, it's probably why we're here, you know? Like, it's, people do appreciate it when you do it. And people, I think when you put a lot of quality into a mix or into a beat, it makes people feel better because they feel like something was made for me with quality. Yeah. So, once again, all this shit exists in people's unconscious. But
that's true.
It makes them feel better. It makes you feel better to listen to a good album that is in your voice and made for people like you. Makes you feel like you're worth something. So as fast as shit gets, and as much as artists try to like stay on top of the algorithm and shit, I know that I gotta move faster, but I'm not gonna sacrifice anything too much because happens all the time. People rush, fans hear it, shit is mid, on to the next thing. And now I'm not checking for your next thing.
So when you were making this album, did you have like a feeling? Was it something like, what makes you being like, all right, now I'm in album mode or now I'm in song mode? Like, what is it? You take a walk outside and you say you like to walk a little bit and you see a tree and it's like, yo, that tree looks dope. Or you see a movie,
a lot, by the way.
You see a movie and then you're like, oh, I really like that character and their name, and then you like, oh, let me use their name for a song, and then they're badass, and you know, a little bit harder drums or something like that. Because like if you think about Black Panther, it's Africa, so it's heavy drums and everything. So if I hear a song with a lot of drums, a lot of bass, I'm like, yo, that should be in there. So what motivates you to write a song or an album?
This might sound really corny, but to me it's actually just having something to say. Because I guess growing up viewing myself as a producer, it was really kind of weird, kind of depressing feeling a lot of us kind of felt over the past few years, of feeling like it doesn't really matter, where it's like, you know, as good as of a producer as I am and how much work I've put into it, there's like 16-year-old kids from Sweden on YouTube with type beats that slap more than my shit. So it's like, what's gonna set me apart? And to me, what really sets artists apart is like the texture of their voice and their personality, and your ability to feel their personality in their arrangements and shit, and to distinguish their voice. So there's a lot of people with like hits, like playlistable hits that have hundreds of millions of streams, but when you hear it, it's like, I don't really know who this is. Like, there's a bunch of things that sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
So having that stamp of like, every time people know you, they know who you are. And yeah, with Bad Mind, I just had something to say. It got out of like a really fucked up relationship, and all I had was music. And Bad Mind is like the Jamaican word for jealousy. So that was like I was very jealous at the time and like very petty, listening to a lot of Future, and yeah, I just wanted to like make what that time in your life feels like being like an 18 to like 22-year-old black man, and like trying to decipher between like love and pride, and going through like the whirlwind of your first relationship, and then it kind of like fucking with you for a very long time, and then it ends, like, and which is like kind of what these days is, of just like accepting what it is and making peace with it. But I think a lot of people try to skip straight to making peace with it without showing people like, nah, here's how this shit really felt though. Here's like bad.
Yo, I'm a huge Joe Budden fan.
Me too.
That's all he talked about. So
my favorite writer, man. Like, say I'm all about hoes, but I'm all about you. Even when I'm with my hoes, I tell them all about you.
Yes.
Like, it's and that's the thing he doesn't get respect for.
Yeah.
That type of honest writing, and honest in a way that's like still kind of like masculine and still makes you feel cool.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Yeah, like you gotta have that. Like you gotta meet niggas where they're at, which is like what I appreciate about Future so much, because it's like people can say it's really problematic and toxic, where it's like, well, most men are problematic and toxic, and they need music to help them navigate those emotions. And I think what artists really do is explore those emotions for people who are too busy to. So like, and that's why we're not above anyone. We're just, as an artist, you're at your peak when you just view yourself as in the service industry. So if there's another, 22-year-old Jamaican nigga from Brooklyn that went through a really bad relationship, but he has to wake up and go to work every day and can't make music, it's important for me to do that. To navigate those emotions and sort them out, and then hopefully give him something he can find some answers in.
Yeah, definitely the one line that got me from Joe was I think it was on Fifth Gear, where he said, I gave her the gun and she killed the only bitch I would die for. When that shit, I was like, oh my God. That is
Joe got us fucking said you the ball players more than ball players. Like, Joe has so many of those fucking incredible ass bars.
And do you know what? I tried to use music. Like I was like, this is how I feel, because I had trouble expressing myself.
Yeah,
as a kid, especially as a kid. You're like, I don't know what these feelings are.
No, you're a black man. You're not taught. You're not given the tools to fucking say how the fuck you feel.
Yeah, it's always like you gotta be a certain, even as a black man, it's definitely hard, but even just as a man, like just growing up, you're like, no, you got to be tougher than that.
But especially us.
But like, especially as a black man, then it's like you got to be extra tough. You can't show any sign of vulnerability. But what's fire is
that's why all this shit is exciting. Like, I think the reason why people resonate with a small artist like me or a big artist like Black is because it's like you're in real time watching us explore these emotions for the first time. Like these days it's like a freestyle. Like that's just how the fuck I was feeling that day. And it's just all, these are real questions, like questions I don't have the answers to yet, things I'm just putting out there. And when you see someone doing that, it kind of feels like, damn, they're walking like a live wire. Like they're really, and the stakes are high. Cause like, like what if people make fun of it? What if people don't take it seriously? And I
think R&B helps a little bit though. With R&B, it's like, all right, you're allowed to be a little bit more vulnerable and everything. So,
but if you don't give it that masculine edge, niggas will be like, I don't fuck with that soft shit. So you gotta have like, and I've seen my favorite, D'Angelo is probably my favorite artist ever, and I saw that like, Voodoo is kind of like the perfect non-toxic masculinity album that's still very masculine. When I listen to that album, it feels like divine masculinity. Like, here's what men should aspire to. But then on that album, he still has like Redman and Method Man rapping about bitches and shit.
Yep.
And like you can't lose because then
Yep.
you're isolating yourself and you're coming off as better.
Especially in like 04?
Yeah.
Come on.
But it's even now. It's just you got to meet people where they're at. Like the amount that Future has probably helped niggas like explore how they really feel.
Yep.
But you got to meet them in the club. You got to meet them in the car. The 808 has to knock. You got to put that ignorant shit in there. Because it's real too. Like any nigga that pretends like they don't feel that is just being like performative and lying. So
of
like,
course, because he going home and he over here on Instagram scrolling and everything. But when he's out.
And nothing's worse than like the dude who tries to pretend like he's past all of that toxic commitment. Like you always still feel it. So like you got to make it a part of your thing or else. And then I've seen like a lot of artists who try to pretend like they're better than it and they're beyond it and everything is just peachy clean in their life. And then that's when people are like, nah, I kind of smell bullshit. Like, because nothing is perfect. No relationship is perfect. So why would you even try to it's almost offensive to because it makes people feel like, am I doing something wrong because I'm not perfect? I listen to Future and I feel at home like this nigga's just as fucked up as me, like and it's very important to like meet people there and then take them somewhere. So don't meet people there and then revel in it. Like meet them there and then give them some kind of place to go, like some kind of message, some kind of something. Because I also don't like artists that just consistently revel in like negativity. I feel like it's just kind of pointless.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that I say is that a lot of men have that one person that if at any time they were like, yo, let's get back together, they'd be like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
It's like, nah, that's the one. and then that's why I felt these days a lot. Yeah. Just listening to it, I'm just like, fuck, that's exactly how I feel. And we the same age. Yeah. And the same thing happened. Like, and so it was great to hear somebody who went through a similar experience to me. You know, I mean, Joe's, 38, 40 around. He act like he's 50. It's okay.
Got the fedoras.
But to have somebody who actually understands and knows what I'm going through or what I've been through, it definitely helps a lot. Did the person that this was about hear the song?
What's weird is we just recently like made up.
Okay, here we go. If you want to make up, write a song.
You know what's super funny?
Tell the person how you feel.
She works in music. She's very talented. She's like an A&R, but she's got a very talented musical mind. She influenced me a lot because I was making like really aggressive rap music before I met her. And like that's the feminine energy will just fucking
It'll
like
change you.
Musically, like if you want to fucking understand how to make songs, hang out with some women and like see what they like as just on a, because I feel like all good music has some kind of meshing of like feminine and masculine energy. If you want to, half of the world is women. Like listen to the, like they are the best A&Rs. They are the best set of ears. I always run things by women, but black women specifically. But like. And then I guess I kind of made this to kind of get her attention in some really weird, twisted way. Because I wanted to make it musically so good that she couldn't hate it, but then also like say what I wanted to say. Yeah. I don't want to get into any details. No, you don't have to get into details. She was very bad between us for a lot of reasons. And yeah, and then when she hit me up and was just like, man, that shit was incredible. And I understood that it was about me, and I understood that you'd found your peace with it, that made it all worth it, and it allowed me to move on. So like you said, like there was no text I could have sent, but these days was that, right? These days was that ability. And she like, I remember I was like promoting the project on like Instagram and shit, and she kept getting the ads, and she's like, God damn. But then she eventually like gave in and listened to it, and she was like, yeah, this is. But yeah, like you said, it's
promote your shit on the gram. No, but
like if your ex doesn't fuck with your shit, that shit is not fire. Like you gotta make like that is the ultimate. As far as just being like critical, you gotta be like, let me make something that like even the woman that hates
if she didn't like it, my articles don't matter. He over here.
Exactly, right.
He's like, man, this shit was trash. Now,
but then that gives me permission to move on. And I made that joke of like, I just. found like a really good place with my ex. My next project about to be trash, which is like, it's just it's a joke,
yep.
but it's more so about, well, now I got to find some other shit to say, and I found that I know what I want to talk about now. But you know, anyone who just came to me for those specific emotions might not like the next project as much, but people who are going through other things will. So I think you got to be very self-aware and calm and understanding that you might lose some people, you might gain some people, but if you want me to make Bad Mind again, I literally can't.
Yeah.
I'm not in the same place anymore.
Yeah.
If I did, it would come off as hollow because I don't deeply understand those emotions anymore. I deeply understand what I'm going through now. So hopefully that cuts through.
Yeah, and especially at like, what, 15, 16, 17, whatever. It was like No Love Lost, Some Love Lost, All Love Lost. And my life literally went in order with those albums. Like, it was all good. Then it was like, I fucked up a little bit. Then it was like, all right, everything is just thrown out the window. Everything is gone. So so that's a progression that he did. And then it was Rage in the Machine. And so like now it's just there. But with you, you're going from Bad Mind to, I don't know if you have a name for Root Child.
Yeah.
Got you. So you're going from that to a next project, and it's definitely going to sound good, I feel like, because you're very talented. You're very talented, and just you being able to play a lot of instruments is very, very impressive to me.
Thank you.
And after I saw the video for These Days, you did that in the subway, right?
Yeah.
And then I scrolled down, I saw your influences. I saw Marvin Gaye. I was like, all right, I understand now. It makes sense. And then you said Lauryn Hill was an influence.
Huge influence.
Were those albums that you went to? Did you go to music while you were making music? Like, did you?
Yeah, you gotta study, and you gotta like. With Marvin, at least for Bad Mind, I was studying "Hear My Dear," which is this album he made. So he was dating Berry Gordy, who was the head of Motown's sister, and they were going through a really bitter divorce. And the terms of his divorce that he worked out is everything's cool if you just turn in one more album to Motown. And as like a big fuck you, he was like, cool, I'm going to give you your album, but it's going to be all just dissing her. It's just going to be it was the original fucking like Future 2015 run of like, this is, and like, it's, cause I guess I love music from every era. I like feel how like he is the future of his time as far as like his getting into that bag of like, there's so many lyrics on that Marvin album of just like, you talk about like a Joe, like one of my favorite Joe lyrics is like, just get the abortion, I'll give you the 250. Yeah. And there's this Marvin line that's just like, you know, like, these lawyers don't know me, fuck out of my face. And it's like, this is pre-hip hop, but like there's something so hip hop about that.
Yeah.
Like, and like, it's that if you are going through that feeling, I feel like you can resonate with music across all time periods that have that emotion in it. So I found like a lot of solace in like Marvin, because that dude's life romantically was always fucked up. And then when all you know in pain is romance, when you experience joy, it's so euphoric. Like Marvin's happy songs, like Sexual Healing, it's so happy because it's like,
finally.
Yeah, and people think joy is the most like incredible emotion you can experience, but it's really a relief from pain. That's really the emotion that is the most joyful. It's more joyful than joy. So when you see an artist that you know has been through a lot of shit and they finally make something happy, it feels earned. And yeah, that's just something that Marvin taught me a lot of. Marvin and Prince also just taught me that spirituality and sexuality musically are kind of the exact same things. Where like musically you slow down gospel music and it sounds really sexy. And like all the gospel music, all of Bad Mind is just different gospel songs that I flipped and interpolated in different ways. But I feel like that's like a core tenet of life that like Prince and Marvin really cracked open because they came from the church. And they realized that like that distinction, people try to make spirituality and sexuality seem like polar opposites, but they're really just the exact same thing. And like they sound the same and they feel the same. So it's really important to play with that. And it's really scary to play with that when you grow up religious because you feel like you're doing something bad. But
that's true, because when people say that when you're with somebody and you're having sex with them and it's that person, then there's a spiritual connection too. It's not just sexual, but then
it becomes just like I was saying with gospel music, where now this is something bigger than myself, right? Yeah. And that's why people who grow up Christian, they view themselves as like this is a unity under God, and it's like it makes so much sense. It's just being repressed. People try to make it seem like they're polar opposites, but I feel like Prince and Marvin cracked that open, and then like D'Angelo further cracked that open for me.
Yes.
And then that's where I like saw this window of like I've experienced all this stuff with romance and sex, and I have this like really heavy gospel influence. So like this actually makes a lot of sense. And yeah, people will try to it's societally branded to you as making no sense at all, but a lot of times they're just trying to like hide truths from you, I feel like.
For the next project, do you think it's going to be longer than this one?
Trying, yeah. Yeah, I want to, you know, people always say like, you know, only compete with yourself, but like that's what's hard, right? Like people like when you're I'm not trying to be anybody but me right now, and I'm just competing with myself, and that's the thing that actually drives me the most crazy, being like I gotta improve on this thing that I really believed in. I gotta make something I believe in even more. But with Root Child, I guess if in Bad Mind, a lot of the conversations with myself were about like love and pride, and like trying to decipher between like your love of someone and your love of controlling something and having something in your life that you can control. Root Child is really about like freedom and like understanding like, you know, I've kind of made peace with a lot of these insecurities. Who am I now? What do I like stand for? And then the thing that's funny that I realized that actually made me less scared about my music not being trash anymore is when you find someone that is actually very healthy for you, it's almost like even scarier, because you're like, damn, if I lose this one, god damn, because this one is like, I'm really fucked up if I lose this one. Yeah. So there's always a conflict, and good songs are movies, and movies are stories, and stories need conflict. So like everything needs a conflict. It's not gonna be a happy album, but I'm dealing with different shit now. With Bad Mind, I was dealing with my ex and just being broke and trying to figure shit out, and now I'm dealing with, you know, like this new girl and who's really great, and dealing with industry pressure and shit, navigating music. And you feel it, you know? It's the same way I was dissing my ex on Bad Mind. Now I'm kind of like dissing A&Rs and shit. But it's really important to like still, and more important, the music is more fun now, because I'm not trying to like get a 10 on Pitchfork or something. Like I don't care about that anymore. I'm trying to impress myself and my friends. So
everybody's gonna make a list. Everybody's gonna have their opinion. So that's why, again, and they do it like the day after the album comes out. I'm like, did you sit down with it? Did you at least, like, the only time I'll ever do that is I think, well, it comes out on Friday, and then I did it, I think it was that Monday, but that was because I listened to it like constantly. That means I listened to it nonstop, and I was like, by Sunday I was like,
you knew how you felt about it.
I was like, I need to write about it. But it wasn't just like, oh, it's Friday, so I have to do it. I would never do that. I at least give myself a week or 2 weeks to sit down and write about it before I even ever decide to say what I think this person, because it's hard to interpret. Interpretation on an album, it could go really good or it could go left, and then you just messed up the whole thing. And you forgot, you lost the premise, or you're just there for the hits and try to get the views. But that's why I wanted to have an A&R on. One of my friends, she's also an A&R, and I wanted to get her side and her perspective, because I was speaking to Nico about how he's going through things, how he's dealing with them, and how he can't put his song out on a different platform because this one, and it's just they try to tie you in and box you in so much. But what has it been like dealing with A&Rs, and because I saw at the bottom it said
I released it by myself.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the only way I could describe it is like after Bad Mind, I got to my like Kanye last call moment, where it's like you got all these deals, you got all these places, like every major different like and not good deals, but deals that most artists in my position take, which is really sad, because I saw this thing Brent Faiyaz just did on Vice that was really transparent, that I really loved, where he just pretty much explained what like the past 6 months of my life has been. It was like you get flown out to these different places, these people try to, you know, win you over, but then you look at that deal and it's like, sure, I got a $250,000 advance and like a $300,000 recording budget, but you're taking 82% of my shit. shit I made in my room by myself without none of y'all niggas.
That's a lot, yeah.
And then I think you feel it even more when you are the producer and the engineer, and you're like, y'all just weren't there for this, and this is my retirement plan. Like, these are my masters. These are, when I'm 40, I want to still be making money on Bad. When I'm 40, I still want to be making money on These Days. So it's like, just feels wrong, and you go into the labels, and on a race level, you feel like, man, I'm sitting in this 26-story building built on black artists that made the wrong decision. Right, like I'm sitting on Miles Davis's masters that he wasn't smart enough to, not smart, what he didn't have the enough information to make the right decision at the time, and you just don't want to be another notch in there. You don't want to continue the cycle. And even musically, I feel like a lot of the artists I listen to are artists that are not just making incredible music, but artists that are navigating the system in a unique way, and unconsciously, I feel like I resonate with those people the most. Where it's like, my favorite albums this year were like, been listening to Brent Fires a lot, been listening to Burna Boy a lot, been listening to Benny a lot.
Benny
my friend
Butcher?
Yeah.
Let's go.
That's my, but you feel in Benny's raps that like he's doing what I'm doing, which is like, before I knew an A&R, I was weighing hard back when Nicki Minaj was in a training bra, where it's like, I did this shit myself. Who the fuck are y'all? And like, I built this fan base by myself. Like, and now he's figured out his way to properly navigate in the industry now that he established his worth.
And he still can't even perform in Buffalo because they shut that down.
But there's so much shit you're going against, and they want you to fail because niggas like Benny, people like me, people like Brent, we threaten the entire construct, and they don't want you to win. But you can't let that discourage you, because there are good people in the music industry. There are good people that understand how fucked up the whole thing is, and they aren't moved by money, which is something that's hard to find. They're moved by being a part of something important. And I'm finding that team right now, and I'm trying to construct my own version of a label that can compete, you know, with artists signed to majors, because it's just really important. In the same way that like you as like a black man talking about a relationship in a certain way might give someone permission, you really got to navigate capitalism in the same way, where it's like you got to show that like you can make it without like, not like it's an old white man owning your masters, right? You can make it, you can do shows without this, you can have fans without this, you can tour the world without this. Because I think when I was making Bad Mind, I figured like, all right, I'm gonna make this and someone's gonna give me a big check and my life is gonna be cool. And then that happened and I was like, this feels wrong. So that's where I'm at now. And like this, a lot of this project is just navigating that confusion, honestly, which is, I feel like, something that I hope people relate to, of just like, you know, I want to do my thing, I want to do myself, but the shit is hard to navigate, and a lot of people play mental chess with you in a way that they convince you that your goals are what their goals are. It's like a lot of artists really don't want to be the biggest artist in the world. Maybe you just want to have like 100,000 fans and tour the country, and you know, like,
that's
why
how you make a lot of money now.
But labels need to sell you on the idea that, because that's what makes them the most money. So it's really important to be firm in that and understand that like, if you're an artist, like none of these niggas can make music. Like none of them can do what you do, and you can redefine pop if you like stay true to yourself, and you can do something that where it's like, there's just there's too many examples that give me inspiration. Like Lil Nas gives me so much inspiration. Like just blew up by himself, and now he's fucking in the Columbia office being like, I want to do this, and y'all can't really tell me shit because y'all didn't do this.
Because he doesn't need them.
Right.
Yeah, you want to get to a point where you don't need them and then they need you, and so you have leverage. Like Beyonce, she was like, I don't want $45 million. I want to own this. Give me less money, but I own this. So
or like the deal like Donald, and I might get the numbers on this song, but the deal that RCA just gave Donald Glover is like, they take 20%, and then after 5 years they go back to owning 0%, and they gave him like millions of dollars in it, like limitless money in an advance. But it's like, all right, cool, like. And then if you're self-aware, you don't get like mad at that. You just get like, all right, let me get my value up to Donald Glover's value, because RCA just wants to be in the Donald Glover business, because that helps them sign new artists to be like, yo, we have Donald.
Yeah.
So it's really important to like not get mad at it and not get frustrated at it. Just like, let me just get better. Let me drop more great songs. Let me drop more undeniable songs, and then see how the conversation changes. Because it's you reach a very frustrating part where you kind of realize that like everything that is sincere and worth doing is either one person's vision or a group of like-minded people's vision, and executed to its best ability. But then with labels, it's not even as much about money as a part of like these A&Rs want to feel like a part of the process, so that, and feeling like a part of it is what makes them push you. But when they feel like a part of it, they make you do a bunch of bullshit that's not sincere to you. The songs might be good, but you can always hear an artist and be like, that's not you. Like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
So
that goes back to the whole being authentic part.
But it's a riddle, right? Because you want to be as big as possible and yourself. But being as big as possible requires letting people be a part of your story that might not necessarily even understand your story. And that's where artists are right now. And it's really confusing trying to financially figure out how to make being an artist work right now. It's really complicated. It's a completely new world, you know? And we're honestly making the rules right now. So like there's no deal. That shit RCA gave Donald Glover, that has not existed before. Or like that, you know, people that come up like Griselda, where it's like just some random niggas from Buffalo that just consistently drop fire. And now they get like a really good deal with Roc Nation. You gotta, the only rule is you gotta create value. That's the only rule right now. And then once you create value, they will meet you where you're at, because they just want to be in the business of you.
Facts.
But you gotta be patient, because a lot of the most talented people I know just weren't patient enough. Like if they would have grounded out for like 2 more years, 3 more projects, they could have not gotten that like slave development deal from a major, but they were like, damn, I need money now. And and being a black man, you understand why you do that. $40,000 can change your life if you're in a really bad position in life. So I never get mad or try to shit on the people. I'm just mad at the system.
Feel like you loving me less these days.